We just got back from our cruise aboard Royal Caribbean's Harmony of the Seas, where I received my open water dive certification. A little breakdown of my experience in 4 sections, both the sign up and the online course, and then we're going to break it out into the confined dives and open water dives. This is a PADI course, so no matter where you go, really it's going to be the same except for price and the locations that you're going to do your open water dives in, or sometimes even your confined dives. Booking the certification was as simple and straightforward as any other shore excursion aboard Royal Caribbean's fleet. But this is where the confusion starts coming in play. Publicly, in their FAQs, they list a price of $599. But behind the paywall, per se, in our cruise planner, it showed a price of $659. With a 10% discount, brought it down to $592. So they're providing 2 different prices publicly and privately, leading to a little bit of confusion, so you don't really know what your price is going to be in the end. Our initial communication with our PADI instructor happened about 4 weeks before our cruise, when she reached out with a lot of information and a follow-up saying that we're going to be reached out to by the PADI diver to complete our medical questionnaire. After multiple attempts, about 7 days after the initial email, we finally reached the PADI diver and they sent over the medical form. So this is 15 days after our initial email. After we completed the form, we sent it back to them, and about 7 days later, and multiple attempts again to reach them, we finally got our PADI course code so we could go online and take our online courses. So with about 6 days remaining before we left on a cruise, we had to cram what we felt like was a lot of information into nights. The online course is pretty simple and straightforward. It's very informative and is a little repetitive, but helps drive home the importance of the information in both video and text form. It was very simple and easy to go through, both on the iPad and the computer. With the iPad version, just keep in mind you can download everything offline and take the quizzes. For our confined water dives, there was a few different things we had to do. When we got on the ship, we were supposed to go to the PADI Center between 1 and 4 p.m., which we did, to only find out we had to come back at 4 p.m., which is a little contradicting to the voicemail that was left in both our room.
We kindly ask you to pass by the PADI dive shop located on deck 15, port side, today from 1 to 4 p.m. to complete your information and have the first equipment session.
The initial email and the other information that we feel like we've understood or gleaned from doing this particular course. When we showed up at 4 p.m., we went through our gear check and made sure everything fit and understood all the basics that we learned in our online course before our confined water dives the next morning. We did miss sail away for this particular case, and it took from about 4 p.m. to about 5 p.m. As for the confined water dives, it was starting at 6 a.m. on the first day of the cruise, which went to about 9:30 or so. From that point, we got our gear in the PADI shop and went out to the pool to basically take care of confined dives 1, 2, 3, and 4 within about a 2.5 hour period, which did lead to a lot of information really quick, but we got through it and we didn't have to come back for a second confined dive the next day. As per the PADI course, you have to have 4 open water dives, and that is what we completed. We completed 2 open water dives in Honduras and 2 in Cozumel. Now, the ones in Honduras, we ended up joining an actual dive excursion. We went out on the boat with them. They went and did a drift dive, I believe. That was our deepest depth. I believe we went down to about 12 meters, and we were down there for about 20 to 30 minutes each dive, going over the information that we learned and our practices. Additionally, in Cozumel, we ended up going out with basically the same group as they booked the same excursion, but we ended up just staying near shore, and that was a shallower dive, I believe at about 8 to 10 meters deep. So we ended up doing 1 tank, completing some more of our exercises, and then on the same tank, we ended up doing our 4th dive, which was basically a free dive to explore and to show that we knew what we have learned so far. And that was basically it for the certification. Now, I had a lot of questions going into this experience, and I have a lot of answers for you. So, first question is going to be, the pool on the ships are pretty shallow, but the pools in the videos and a lot of other places are deeper, and they are. They're about 4.5 feet deep, and it did make the confined water dives a little more challenging. It wasn't as easy as you think. Especially being 6'2", I can basically just stand out of the water, so doing some of the diving was a little more challenging in such a shallow pool of water. One of the other questions I had is, what do we have to bring? And we ended up not having to bring anything, but that wasn't clear from other dive classes that you could have taken on shore or at other dive schools, which generally require you to bring both your snorkel, your mask, and a pair of fins. We didn't have to bring that, but they do have a limited supply of them. And even though there was only 3 of us going, it was kind of hard to find one that fit for everyone, including wetsuits. And the other guy we were going with was a little smaller, so even his BCD might not have fit him as well as it probably should have. For using a dive computer and how to use it, we never actually got the experience of using a dive computer. We did have to use a compass and show how to navigate, but we never went through a dive computer, we never wore one, or even saw one during this whole dive course, which was a little confusing because they kept reiterating how important they are and how beneficial they are. And we also never got a logbook or a place or shown how to write down the information from our dive of how deep we went, how long we were down there, and to calculate our decompression rate. I think that's what it's called. While all the gear was provided, the transportation of the gear wasn't. We ended up having to collect that later in the day and bring that down to our staterooms before our open water dives on both of the days. So we did have a big bag of gear sitting in our rooms that didn't quite fit under the bed. So it did take up some extra space in your stateroom, so just keep that in mind. I got one little last nugget for you. The Aqua show is amazing. They might do 2 different variations on your ship during your cruise, but if they don't, even just the one, we went and watched that a few times, and it was amazing. Now, something you might not have known is they have 6 certified divers in the water at all times to help the performers. And additionally, everyone that was down there, generally underwater, was scuba certified. They have their own compressor to fill their tanks, and everything is tank-based. They did try doing a tankless system where compressed air was pumped in, but it just was too complicated for the logistics, it sounds like. So that's how the actors breathe underwater.